Hello class, in this video I will demonstrate on the usage of your drawing tools and your modifying tools in order for you to create your basic architectural drawings and other construction drawings in the AutoCAD application software. So as I mentioned before, everything or every activity that we do in AutoCAD involves the execution of different commands. So it is important that you take note and memorize each of the shortcut keys of the important commands that will be used in your AutoCAD in order for you to work faster and efficiently during the creation of your construction drawings. So let's start with the drawing tools first. But before we start any drafting, it is important that we check and adjust our units of measurements for our drawings. Units of measurements should always be adjusted into metric units. In order to adjust our units, we will execute the units command. And the shortcut keys for the units is UN, or in phonetic alphabet, U, uniform, November. So let's type UN on our keyboard. And to execute the command, let's press spacebar. And upon execution of the units command, the drawing units dialog box will then appear. In this dialog box, we are now able to adjust our units. In this course, I'm requiring you to use millimeters as your units. And since we are using millimeters, let's set the precision to 0 without any decimal point. Since in the actual experience, we cannot measure things below 1 millimeter. So it is not necessary to include decimal points when we're already measuring objects using millimeters. So once everything is set, press OK to exit the command, and then we can start with our proper drafting methods in AutoCAD. So we'll start first with the line command. So the shortcut for line is L, or in phonetic alphabet Lima. So type L on your command bar and press spacebar to execute the line command. It is important also to always look upon your command bar for us to know what are we prompted to do. So it tells us to specify the first point. So in specifying the first point, we can click anywhere in our working space, and the next step will be specifying the other endpoint of our line. In creating polylines or polygons using the line command, in order for us to close the polyline or the polygon, we can use the close sub command or the close sub option by typing C and pressing spacebar to enter the sub option. The line will automatically connect back to our point of origin of our polygon. Now to refresh the lessons about the selections, we have 3 types of selection. Number 1, or the 3 methods of selection. So the first method is selecting the objects individually by clicking on them directly. We have the left to right selection, which is called the window selection, in which in order to select an object using the window selection, objects must first be fully inside the selection box. Window selection box is indicated in blue color, and the right to left selection is the cross selection, in which we are not required to put the whole object within the selection box. Cross selection is indicated in green color. So in using the cross selection, even parts of the object that intersects the lines of the selection box will be added to our selection. Now let's erase this using the erase command. The shortcut key for erase is E, or in phonetic alphabet, echo. So let's type E in our keyboard and press spacebar. Executing the erase command while objects are selected will make those selected objects be erased. So if you made a mistake in your drawings, or you mistakenly erased or drawn something, you can undo your command by pressing Ctrl and Z, or in phonetic alphabet, the Control key and your zebra key on your keyboard simultaneously to undo the most recent action you have just done. Another use of the erase command is executing the command before selecting any objects. Erase command is one of the modifying tools, and the use of modifying tools, by using the modifying tools, you can either select the objects you want to modify before you execute the command, or you can execute the command first before you select an object. So let's try the other method of erasing objects by first executing the command before selecting any objects. So let's type E, or echo, and press spacebar to execute the erase command. Then we will select all the objects that we want to erase. Then once we select everything, just press spacebar, and then voila. Now let's go back to the line command. So using the line command, let's type L and press spacebar to execute the line command. And upon specifying the first point, if you want to specify the origin of your point towards the point of origin of your drawing, or where your UCS, or Universal Coordinate System, is located, you can simply type the coordinate by typing 0, 0, indicating that is 0 x position and the 0 y position. And then just press enter. And then you will notice that the line, or the origin of the line, or the starting point of the line, is now placed on our point of origin. The creation of line is also affected by our ortho mode, which can be turned on or off using our F8 key. So by pressing F8 key, we'll turn on the ortho mode, in which our lines will be aligned parallel to our X and Y grids, or X and Y axes. So in the creation of line, we can specify angles, fixed angles, if we wish to. So we can type first the less than symbol or shift comma on our keyboard, and then entering the angle with respect to the positive x-axis. So the positive angles will give us the fixed angle counterclockwise from our positive x-axis. For example, if we type 45, we'll get our line will be fixed at positive 45 degrees, regardless on how we or where we position our cursor. We can also determine our line length by typing a specific line length before upon specifying the second point of a line. So for example, we will create a 1 meter line. So let's type 1000 and press enter. To exit the command, you can simply press the escape key on your keyboard, and you can zoom out if you want to see your whole line. Or if you want to zoom out faster, you can simply use your zoom extent by using the zoom command. So in order to use the zoom command, the shortcut key for zoom is Z, or in phonetic alphabet, Zulu, and press spacebar to execute the zoom command. And then we will choose the extent sub-option by typing E and then pressing spacebar to choose the extents. Executing the zoom extent command will zoom our object towards the outermost boundary of our existing elements or our existing drawings within our working space. And we will automatically be zoom out in which the drawings are centered within our monitor screen. So let's try to create again a polygon using the line command. And now the next type of line is our polyline. The shortcut for polyline is PL, or in phonetic alphabet, Papa Lima. So let's type PL and execute the command by pressing spacebar. The creation of polyline is somewhat similar to your line creation. So you can specify specific angles or a fixed angle, or you can specify a fixed length for your polyline segments. So upon creation of polyline, the difference of creating polygons using the line command and the polyline command is that the segments of the polygon using the line command are independent from each other, while the polyline are all joined within one selection only. Another command for drawing is the rectangle command, which has the shortcut key of REC, or in phonetic alphabet, Romeo Echo Charlie. So let's type REC and press spacebar to execute the rectangle command or rectangle command. We are first prompted to specify our corner point, and then we are prompted to specify another corner point. In creating rectangle, there are two methods of creating rectangle or rather three methods of creating rectangle with our desired dimensions. So for example, we will create a space having an area of, or having a dimension of 5 meters by 3 meters. So the first method is the direct method without choosing any sub option. So in order to put our dimension, we will type first the @ symbol or shift 2 on our keyboard, and then type the desired dimension. So we'll start first with the dimension along the horizontal axis. So let's type the 5 meters or 5,000, and the other dimension separated by a comma. So we have now a rectangle with a dimension of 5 meters by 3 meters. If you want to measure your object, you can use your distance command, or the shortcut key for distance is DI, or in phonetic alphabet, Delta India. So type DI, and then you can measure your objects by specifying the 2 endpoints of your measurement. It's up to you if you want to measure this line or if you want to measure the hypotenuse. So upon measuring, you will see the measurements in your command line. If you want to see the previous commands or the previous prompts or the logs of the commands you have used, you can view the previous logs by pressing F2 on your keyboard, and this you will see the log of the commands you have executed. And to exit this one, you can simply click the close button on the dialog box, or by simply pressing F2 again on your keyboard. Going back, another method for creation of the rectangle is through the area method. So let's execute the rectangle command and specify the first point. So let's use the area sub option. So let's type A and press space bar. And we are now prompted to enter the area of our rectangle. So let's say we'll enter 15 million square meters. Which is equivalent to 15 million square millimeters, which is equivalent to 15 square meters. And then we are now prompted to enter the length of our rectangle. So we have a choice if we want to enter the length or the width of our rectangle. So if you wish to enter the width, you can simply type W and press space bar, and then enter the width of your rectangle. So you can type 3,000, for example, and then when you're okay with your dimension, press enter. So you now have a rectangle with an area of 15 square meters with one dimension of 3 meters, and the other dimension will be adjusted automatically, or will be determined automatically by the system. The third method is the longer version of our first method. So after specifying the first point of a rectangle, we will use the dimension command, which is almost the same as the first method. However, this is a longer method. So by using the dimension sub options, we'll specify first the length of the rectangle. For example, 5,000, and then the width, or the first dimension that is specified will be along the x-axis, and the second will be along the vertical axis, so which is 3,000. And we are now prompted to position our rectangle. On what quadrant are we going to position our rectangle? So when if we are okay with the quadrant, let's click anywhere. Then we have our rectangle now. So these are the three drawing tools for creating basic polygon shapes in the creation of our architectural or construction plans. So let's apply this basic polygon in our plan creation. For example, we will create a floor plan. You will apply this on your formative assessment, first formative assessment. So for example, I will create a room with a specific measurement. So I'll start first by creating a rectangle, and you can enter your desired dimension for your room. For example, this is just my example. I will create a room with a dimension of 4 meters by 7.5 meters, and another space within my room with a dimension of 1.5 meters at 1,500 by 2,500. Also, when an object is a polyline, if you want to separate each segment and convert them into individual segments, you can use your explode command. The shortcut key for explode is X, or in phonetic alphabet, X-ray. So this is also one type of our modify tool, in which it can be executed before or after selecting an object. So we can execute this while selecting the object we want to explode. Then type X on your keyboard, then execute the explode command. So from being a polyline, our line are now converted in, our polyline is now converted into a polygon made of line command. So let's erase the overlapping lines. So this is our basic schematic plan for now. Okay, we'll move first with some of the modifying tools. So let's start first by specifying our wall thickness by using the offset command, which has a shortcut key of O, or in phonetic alphabet, Oscar. So let's type O and press spacebar to execute the offset command. before we use or before we offset our lines, we are first prompted to specify our offset distance, which is in which, for example, we'll use 150 for our wall thickness. So once we specify, press enter, then we will now proceed to the selection of object. So once we select an object, we will specify the direction on which side do we want to offset. So the polyline, offsetting polylines will automatically adjust the corners without overlapping any or intersecting lines. However, intersecting non-polylines will offset them parallel to the line segments. If you want to offset a line with a different offset distance, execute the offset command again and specify your offset distance. So for example, 50, because I'm planning to offset this 50 on both sides. So after specifying, we'll select the object, and then after selection, in order for us to be continuous with our offset, we can use the multiple sub option. So let's type M and press spacebar, in which we are now able to offset this continuously. There. Actually, using the multiple command will offset it continuously if you want. So if you want to offset another object, once you're done with offsetting a single line or a single component, you can press spacebar to specify the next object you want to offset. So press spacebar and then select the next object you want to offset with the same distance. So this will offset this part. Then we now have our wall thickness. But as you can see, these lines did not intersect one another. So there are certain methods of connecting these kinds of lines. First method is the use of our extend command. So the shortcut key for extend is EX, or in phonetic alphabet, echo X3. So EX and press spacebar. We are now prompted first to select the objects as our boundary of our extension. So for example, this one, we'll select this as our boundary. And once we select them, press spacebar, and we are now prompted to select the objects that we wish to extend. Or let's try that again, but rather I will select this as my boundary. And upon selecting my extension boundary, we will select the objects that we wish to extend. So you'll notice that the objects which are not collinear with the object or the boundary you created will extend towards the boundary you selected during your first selection. So if you wish to extend everything, you can just simply use cross selection if you want to extend everything. For example, this is just an example. So for example, I'll select these two lines. And another way to connect a line is to trim them. So the shortcut key for, or the shortcut for trim is TR, or in phonetic alphabet, Tango Romeo. So this is similar on how we use our extend command. So let's type TR and execute it. We are now prompted to specify our boundary for trimming. So once we select the boundary, we'll press enter, and then we are now prompted to select the objects that we want to trim. So for example, I will trim these parts. And another method for trimming is simply entering this and pressing spacebar twice upon entering the command. So this doesn't, using trim and double spacebar doesn't require us to select a boundary. So this is what we call the quick trim, in which the selected lines will be trimmed according to the nearest extents. For example, this one. So it will automatically be trimmed to the nearest boundaries, which is this line and this line. Same goes with your extend command. Extend command can be used as EX, then double spacebar, in which we are not required to select our boundary. Objects will be automatically be extended to the nearest possible extension boundary. So going back on how we will intersect this properly, we can also use the Fillet command, which has the shortcut key of F, or in phonetic alphabet, it's Foxtrot. So let's type F and press spacebar to execute the Fillet command. Fillet can be used in creating boundary or creating intersection with our required radius. Later on, I will show you the other applications of Fillet. The default radius of Fillet, as you can see in your command bar, is 0, in which once the radius is 0, you will select one object and then select the second object. It will automatically be connected to one another. Another use of Fillet is, for example, we will create our kitchen sink. So let's create, for example, our kitchen sink. So apply your anthropometrics. Then in Fillet, we can execute the Fillet command using the Fillet command. So type F, press enter, and we'll specify the radius for our fillet. So let's choose the radius sub option by typing R and then press spacebar, and then we'll specify the radius of our fillet. For example, I'll use a radius of 30 millimeters. You can fillet multiple lines continuously by choosing the multiple sub option, or in polylines, if you want to fillet every corner of a polyline, you can simply choose the polyline sub option by typing P and then pressing spacebar. Then choose the polyline that you want to fillet. Also, in the creation of rectangle, you also have an option of applying fillet directly upon the creation of your rectangle. So using the fillet sub option, we are now prompted to enter the radius of our fillet, for example 30, and then enter your dimension. And we have the same results as this one. And then for our kitchen sink, we'll offset this by 1 inch. And then we can use our lines to create a guideline for us to create the line for drain. So to create a line for drain, we can draw a circle by using the circle command. The shortcut key for circle is C, or in phonetic alphabet, Charlie. So in the creation of circle, we have two methods. The first method is the creation of circle by using the radius. So let's type C and then execute the circle command by pressing spacebar on your keyboard, and then specify the first point of your circle. So for example, I'll create a circle with a radius of 1 meter. So radius is the default value for creation of circle. So we'll type the radius and we'll have a circle with a radius of 1 meter. Another method of creation of circle is the use of the diameter. So let's try again. Is drawing a circle using the diameter. So we'll draw our drain point. And to specify the diameter, we can choose the diameter sub option by typing D and then press spacebar. And then we are now prompted to enter the diameter. So for example, we have a diameter for our drain, diameter of 30 millimeters. And when you are creating fixture or furniture system, you can convert them into block by selecting everything and then execute the block command by using the shortcut key B, or in phonetic alphabet Bravo. So there are also two methods of creating blocks. You can use the right block command with a shortcut key of W. That is, you will create a block similar to your save as function, in which the block will be saved within a different file, in which this is the right block command is useful if you wish to reuse your block component within other files, or you can simply use the block command with the shortcut key of B if you are just going to use a certain block within that particular file only. So let's type block, let's use the block command by typing B and then pressing enter. This is how we create our block definition. So we will enter our block definition, for example, kitchen sink. And upon creation of block, we mustn't forget to pick a point to specify our pick point for our block. This is very useful, especially in 3D, when you are modeling 3D in your AutoCAD, but it will not be covered in this course for the time being. So once everything is set, just click OK, and you will now notice every component is now selected into, are now combined into one selection. So if you want to edit something within your block definition, you can simply double click your block and then press OK. We will now be directed towards our block editor. So for example, we want to offset this by 1 centimeter. And once changes are made, we can simply click the check on our ribbon to close the block editor. And if we're okay to the changes we've made, we have an option to save our changes or discard the changes we've made. So let's save, and the changes we've made will be applied to our block. So let's again trim this. Let's trim this line. So we now have our construction line. We now have our walls. Next, we will use the move. We will create our door opening. Or our door location. So we'll create a line first, and then we'll move this line by using our move command. The shortcut for move is M, or in phonetic alphabet, mic. So let's type M and press spacebar, and then we are now prompted to specify the pick point. So once we specify the pick point, we are now prompted to specify the point of displacement. So if we want to move it to the right, we can simply follow the direction and type the specific direction that we wish to the point of displacement that we wish to move our selected object. The move command is also affected by our ortho command, the same as our copy command. So in order to copy a specific object, for example, we will copy this, although we can use offset in determining our opening. The shortcut for copy is CO. So, or in phonetic alphabet, Charlie, Oscar. and then press enter. The usage of our copy command is similar to your move command, in which we are prompted to specify the base point of our line, and then we are now prompted to specify the point of displacement for our copy. So, for example, we'll use 800. So we now have a duplicate of the object we have copied. Or in specifying doors, you can simply use your offset command and type the value that you wish to enter. So now we can now trim the lines we wish to. We can now erase this line, the unnecessary lines. Also, we will create another door here by creating a line. Then we'll move it by, for example, 100. Then we'll offset this by 850. And we'll trim this portion. So in polylines, if we wish to or we can also use our line in order to create our window boundaries, or rather line command. Then we can start by creating a line at the center and then offset it by the value in which we will specify the dimension of our window opening. For example, we'll use an opening of 1200, or rather an opening of 800. Then we'll use the multiple sub option, and then let's erase the center line and then trim the unnecessary lines. The next modify tool is the opposite of our explode command, which is in which we will join separate lines into an existing polyline. So the command here is PE, or which is the shortcut key for polyedit or polyline edit. So PE, or in phonetic alphabet, Papa Echo, and then press enter. We now have several sub options. We can convert existing polylines into spline, or we can simply use our join command if we want to join other segments towards our polyline. So let's click join, or let's choose join, and then press select the objects that you wish to join. Then once you're done, press enter. For example, you've accidentally erased the the line for closing. You can also close this without drawing another line. You can use your PE polyedit command, then choose the close sub option. Your polyline will automatically be closed. And in order for you to ensure that the polyline is closed, you will notice that the close it will be uh, changed with the open sub option. So that is your indicator that your polyline is closed. So let's also join this one. So let's execute the PE command, then choose the join sub option. Then we can simply select everything. Then once you selected everything, the selected objects will now be joined into one polyline, and then we can now close this in order to unclose our polyline. Then press spacebar or escape to exit the command. We will now draw a line towards our ledge and our line for the boundary of our floor. You can also use line in the creation of your window sill. So the next next drawing tool is the ellipse, which is mostly used for the creation of our water closet. So in drawing ellipse, the shortcut key for ellipse is EL, or in phonetic alphabet, Echo Lima. So this is the creation of ellipse by default is similar to the creation of your rectangle. So we will specify first the dimension of our ellipse. For example, we'll use 550, and the other dimension is, for example, 400. So we now have our ellipse, which has a dimension of 550 and 400 from the center. Another way of creating ellipse, in which if you wish to start at the center, you can choose the center sub option by typing the highlighted letter, which is C or Charlie, and press spacebar. We are now prompted to enter the center of our ellipse. So let's type first the dimension. So let's type 275 by 200. We now have a dimension of 550 by 400. So let's try to offset this by 2 inches. And now let's create a rectangle with a fillet radius of 30. And then specify the specify the dimension of your water closet, water compartment for your water closet. And now you can simply move this by using your move command by using the M command. And now we can simply draw a line here. For the drain, we can simply draw a circle using a diameter. And let's use 100 for the water closet. Then we'll move it 1 foot away from the wall, or in millimeters it is 300. Excuse me. So we now have our water closet. So we can convert this again into block. So let's use the block command by typing B or Bravo. And we'll label this WC. And again, when creating a block definition, we should not forget to specify our base point. So once everything is set, click OK. So now we have our water closet. We can also use ellipse in the creation of our lavatory if we wish. However, there are other ways of creating lavatory. We can use the arc command, but our creation of lavatory or arcs using the traditional or the default method requires guide geometric shapes. So let's first create a rectangle, but since we adjusted the fillet value of our rectangle, we'll adjust first our fillet value to 0. So let's enter the dimension of our lavatory. For example, 300 by 400. And then we'll use the arc command. The shortcut for arc is A, or in phonetic alphabet, alpha. So type A. And then once executed, we are now prompted to specify the first point, then the second point, which is the center of our arc, and the end point. So creation of arc requires 3 points of drawing. So we can now delete this rectangle and enclose this. Now what we will do is we'll offset this by 2 inches. Well, we'll offset the back by 3 inches or 75 mm. Or rather, we can offset this by 130. And then we can simply use our fillet command here in order to enclose our intersection. Or if you don't want a sharp curve, you can specify a specific radius for your fillet. There we have our lavatory, and we'll specify now our our faucet connection, in which we can use the diameter of 25, or rather 20. Now we have our lavatory. So again, we'll convert this into a block definition. Let's label this as lav. Then always specify your pick point. So press OK. We now have our lavatory. So we will now place them towards our room. So it's up to you on how you will position your fixture in your rooms using the move command. So next is the mirror command. So the mirror is mostly used in our creation of our table. So for example, I'll create a table with a dimension of 0.6 by 0.6 or 600 by 600. And let's create one chair with the dimension of 450 by 450, or rather 400 by 400. And then for the backrest, we have 50 by 400. We can now convert this into if you wish to merge them into one selection without converting them into block, you can use your group command. So the group command, the shortcut for group is G, or in phonetic alphabet golf. So you will now notice that this is grouped into one selection, but this is not. This is somewhat different from the block. So if you intend to explode that, what will happen is that each component will be converted into line. Unlike the block command or the block definition, if you apply the explode command here, everything or every drawing element will be converted into individual selections. So let's revert it back to block definition. So for the mirror command, for example, you will create a table with 2 chairs. So we'll use the mirror command. So the shortcut for mirror is MI, or in phonetic alphabet, Mike India. So Mike India, then specify the center point or the mirror point, preferably the center of the table. And then once we specify the mirror plane, We are now asked if we want to erase the source object, which is this one. If we choose no, the object will be retained. But if we choose yes, the source object will be erased. And this one, the new object will be retained. You can use your rectangle command by in the creation of your fixture or other furniture within your space. And also, if you create a certain object, you can somewhat stretch this using the stretch command. So for example, we will stretch this towards this end. So in stretch command, we should be careful in our selection. So we'll first execute the stretch command before selecting any objects. So the shortcut for stretch is S, or in phonetic alphabet, Sierra. Then we'll use the cross selection. The points of stretch are those line segments that are intersecting the boundaries of our selection box. So, for example, we will stretch. I will select this only, in which it intersects only the upper portion of our polygon and the right side of our polygon. And for the wall, once you are, the wall won't be stretched actually, because both sides are selected perpendicularly to our stretch point. So to demonstrate to you, once we selected it, press enter, and once we stretch that, you will notice that only the point where the objects intersected the selection box are stretched or adjusted. But if you try to stretch this by intersecting these two parallel lines, you will notice the difference. So again, let's stretch this line and then intersect both of the lines, then press enter. You can enter a specific value, or you can just prompt your point of displacement. So if you don't wish to exclude this, if you want to retain it as a polyline, but it is overlapping other existing lines, you can use the break command. So the shortcut for break is BR, or in phonetic alphabet is Bravo Romeo. So in executing the break command, we are first prompted to select our object. And in order to properly use the break command, we should specify first the first point by selecting the first point sub option. So let's type F, then press enter, and then we will Now specify the endpoint of our breakpoint. So breakpoint usually is used in a clockwise manner, depending on the situation of the objects. So for example, or rather in a counterclockwise manner. So let's try to break the lines use in a counterclockwise manner. So we'll start here. Because if we do it the other way, if we do it in a clockwise manner, if we start to break here, the boundary of the breakpoints will be selected. The 3 points will be selected for erasure because the breakpoint is subjected in a counterclockwise manner, starting from this point towards this point in a counterclockwise direction, in which the selected objects to be broken will then be these 3 points. So we'll start, in order to use the break, we'll start our first point here, and we'll start our end point here. Then we now have our polyline. Next, for our hang cabinet, we can simply offset this by 400. And we can now position our kitchen sink. So it's up to you if how you will position your fixture. So let's position them using the move command. And last for, and probably there are some cases that you will import a specific drawing inside your from other you will you will insert drawings, which will later on be tackled in the later discussions. However, if some drawings that you import will probably be scaled or be drawn using another unit. So for example, you are going for example you are going to create a paper that is 20 by 30. So this is the proportion in inches. If you want to convert this, you can use the scale command. This is just an example anyway. So you specify your scale point at 25.4. So this is the actual paper size in accordance to the sizes of the furniture anyway. So it doesn't matter. Also, if you want, for example, this bed, if you want to rescale the bed, if you want to double the size, you can use the scale command. The shortcut key for scale anyway is SC, or in phonetic alphabet, Sierra Charlie. And then you are now prompted to specify the reference point for your scaling. And if you want to double the size of your bed, you can simply type 2, in which every sizes or every dimension will be multiplied by 2. This is also applicable to your block definition. For example, if you want to rescale this, for example, you want to reduce this in half. So use your scale command, and after you specify your first point, you can specify it by a smaller scale, and you will note once you specify it by half, you will now get a smaller version of the object. Next command is the hatch command. So the shortcut for the hatch is H. So when we execute the hatch command, originally in the older versions, a dialog box will appear for the hatch creation. But here in the latest version or the later versions of the AutoCAD, the options for hatching are somewhat now determined in our ribbon. So again, the ribbon is the toolbars at the top of our working space. So we will now choose our hatch. We can define our own hatch. For example, we will create a tile. So we'll use double. And for the user defined, these are the spacing of the lines. So we'll use, for example, 600 by 600. And we have two methods of applying hatches in our drawings in CAD. We can select an enclosed object, or we can simply select a pick point, in which this is the region. So this is the hatching by the ribbon, by the region. Also, we can specify the origin of our tile setout if we wish to. So we'll create another hatch for our toilet and bath. So we'll use 200 by 200. And we will set the origin. And if you wish to create a table, for example, you want to create a round table, for example, and you will create a table for 6, you can use your array command. The shortcut for array is AR, or in phonetic alphabet, Alpha Romeo. So we have 3 types of array. We have our rectangular, we have our path, and we have our polar array. So for our polar array, which can be applied for creation of trees or the creation of round tables, so we'll choose the polar by typing PO or Papa Oscar and specifying the center point of our array. So it's up to us how will we adjust our polar array. We can adjust the number of items that we wish to enter. We can put 4, we can put 5, in which the angle between is automatically adjusted based on the items. Or we can also adjust the angles, for example, 60, or rather 30. There. It's up to you how will you adjust your polar array. Next, for example, you want to create a classroom. You can use your array also. For example, let's assume this is an armchair. And we can use the rectangular array. So let's choose the rectangular sub option by typing R. And then in our ribbon, we can adjust how many columns and how many rows are places. So this is the columns and this is the row panel. So for example, we are required to have 2 groups of armchairs and each group will have 20 chairs. So we need to have 5 rows. Or 5 columns. 4 columns and 5 rows, for example. So once you're done, just click the check button. This is automatically converted into block. If you want to separate each element, you can use your explode command. Same with the one we did with our polar array. So if you are working on an urban planning with an unusual pattern, and you wish to for example, these are trees, and you wish to put a trees in the same pattern as this one, you can also use array and use the path command by choosing the path sub option, or PA, Papa Papa Alpha, and then we are now prompted to select our path curve. So there. You can specify the total number of items or the number of items in between them. For example, each are distance with 1,500 to each other. So the number of items will automatically be adjusted. Once we're done, just also, in addition to to our rectangular array, you can also specify the distance of the chairs. If you wish to. So those are all for the array. And lastly, we will create our doors and our doors. So first, we will create our door jamb. So it's up to you if you want your door to be simply 850, the same. If you want your door to be simply the same width as your opening, or you can simply create a jamb using your polyline command. So you can mirror this, and then create your door lift, which is 800 by 2 inches, and then you can simply move this. Also, another modify tool is your rotate command. So the shortcut for rotate is RO, or in phonetic alphabet, Romeo Oscar. So we'll specify the first point. Also, rotate is somewhat affected by our ortho mode. So once our ortho is on, it is automatically rotated 90 degrees from your reference point. But if you turn off your ortho, you can manually edit or manually modify your rotation points. So if you want to rotate this again with an unspecified angle, our default reference point will always be the positive x-axis. So if you want to set the reference point, you can use the reference sub option by typing R and then draw a line aligning to your point of reference. And you can now use your ortho mode. And for the door swing using the arc command. So let's execute the arc command by typing A or alpha. And then again, arc is a three-point method. So we'll start with the starting point. And for the doors, you can simply use the start end direction method or SED. So we specify the start. We'll choose then the end point. So we'll type E to select the end sub option and specify the end point. And then we'll choose direction, which is the tangential direction of our door swing. So let's type D or delta. And then we'll specify our door swing. We will now copy this and delete the door, modify our door jambs. We can close this using our poly edit. And we can simply mirror this part, the door jamb, and move this to the endpoint. So we'll again convert our doors into block. So this will be our door 1. Again, in creation of our block definition, never forget to specify your base point. Same here. So don't forget to name your door. Okay. We'll now place this. So you can rotate this by 90 degrees. And if you want to change the direction, you can use your mirror command. So MI for mirror and specify the mirror point. So if you choose the vertical position, it will be mirrored. It will be create a mirror on the horizontal direction. But if you mirror it with a horizontal mirror plane, you will create a duplicate on vertically. So let's erase the source object. And then let's move this towards our desired position. So there. We now have our plan. That's how you apply your drawing tools and your modifying tools in the creation of your plan. So if you have any questions, you can simply ask your respective advisors. So that's all for today. We can now proceed to the next lesson, which is the annotation of objects. So good day, everyone, and keep safe.